Si te parece, podemos comenzar con que cuentes tu historia acerca de quién eres, de cuánto llevas, qué haces, cosas generales sobre tu vida.
If you like, we can start by telling your story about who you are. How much
Sure.
do you have? What do you do? General things about your life.
Okay.
Yeah.
¿Cuántos minutos?
Oh,
3? Libre?
Yeah.
Okay. Now?
yeah.
Okay. My name is Arjan. I'm from New Zealand, and I started riding motorbikes about 6 or 7 years ago. I've always loved to travel, and it just seemed like a good idea to combine the two. Right now, I'm traveling through the Americas on my bike, and I'm having a fantastic time, meeting fantastic people, and having a real adventure. In New Zealand, I work for the university as a scientist. I've been doing that for 25 years, and I just felt like I needed a break. I've just been through quite a lot of surgeries. I had a lot of problems with my back, and I had my back fused. So I had the last 4 or 5 years. Start again? No? Yeah, so I've always loved to travel, and I just recently started riding a bike about 6 or 7 years ago. Turns out I love riding my bike, and it seemed like a good idea to combine the two. And so now yeah, I'm doing a big trip. I took a year off. I quit my job, and with the permission of my wonderful girlfriend, I have a 1-year man pass, and I'm traveling through the Americas. So I flew from New Zealand to Los Angeles, where I bought this bike, the Kawasaki KLR 650. It's exactly the same bike that I have in New Zealand, so I know the bike quite well, and I know what to expect from it. And it's a cheap bike. As far as big adventure bikes go, it's a pretty good value bike. Bought the bike in California in November, and took off, and I've been traveling for about 5 or 6 months now. Started off going through Mexico. I planned to spend 1 month in Mexico, but I ended up spending 3 months there because it's just such a fantastic country. And I've been going down through Guatemala, Nicaragua, Honduras, Costa Rica, Panama, and I've just arrived here in Colombia about 2 weeks ago. We put the bike with some friends. We hired a container in Panama, put all the bikes in a container and shipped them over by a cargo boat, and we flew to Cartagena, and yeah, I've been traveling through Colombia for the last couple of weeks, and my direction is roughly south. I don't really have a plan. I don't really have a destination. It's not really about getting somewhere. It's just about experiencing the journey and experiencing people and culture and countries and languages and food. But my rough direction is north. The rough plan is to go to Argentina and then return back up to Chile, and where I'll probably end up selling the bike in Chile and flying home. And the plan is to do it all in approximately 1 year. And so far it's been absolutely fantastic. Everything's gone perfectly. People are fantastic everywhere. And that's been one of the most humbling experiences of this whole trip, is just how good people are, how nice people are, how generous people are, and especially bikers. It's something about bikers that they stick together, they look after each other. People have been so helpful. Complete strangers have been remarkably helpful everywhere I go, and it's been a real humbling experience for me, a big part of the adventure. And also, yeah, experiencing different countries, different languages. My Spanish is bad. It's slowly improving, but it's still pretty bad. I can get by. And the food, I love the food and history, culture. Yeah, everything I wanted this trip to be, it is being, and I'm very glad that I made the move to do it. It was a big decision. It took me quite a few years of thinking about exactly what I wanted to do and how I was going to do it and how I was going to pay for it and whether it was responsible to just throw my job in and go. And I think sometimes you can think about something for too long and you just have to go. You just have to make that move, make that decision. And that's what I did. I've had quite a few years of serious back issues. I had a lot of back surgeries over the last 4 or 5 years and a long, slow recovery. And all that time I was dreaming about doing this trip. And then finally, when my back was doing pretty well, I just went for it. I bought the bike online, sight unseen from New Zealand, and had a friend in Los Angeles pick it up for me. And then we flew over and started the journey.
Ahora hablabas de el espíritu de los motociclistas del mundo. ¿Es igual en esta parte en América o al igual que en Europa y el resto del mundo o es diferente en esta zona?
Now you speak of the spirit of the motorcyclists of the world is the same in this part in America as in Europe and the rest of the world, or is different in these?
Okay, cool. Sí, entiendo.
En cuanto a la amabilidad, a la forma en la que te acogen, te reciben en cada ciudad, ¿en Europa, en otras partes del mundo se ve igual o solamente pasa en este lado del mundo?
Yeah, one of the really the standout features of this trip is how incredibly helpful bikers have been. Bikers, they literally pull me over on the side of the road, and we have an instant bond, an instant connection, because they understand what biking is about, they understand what a biker needs, and they're just incredibly helpful. I've found that especially here in Central and South America, people have been outstandingly friendly and generous with their time and their advice, and invited me into their house, helped me with breakdowns, with everything. Just simple things like showing me to a reasonable hotel or a site that I have to see, right through to inviting me to live in their house and be a part of their family. I've traveled a lot on motorbike in New Zealand. I've done 2 big sort of 3-month trips around New Zealand, and although you also have a similar kind of bond between bikers there, I think it's stronger here. It's people are even more helpful here, and it's just been an outstanding feature. It's very humbling just how generous people are, and I've been using there's a few support groups on WhatsApp specifically for bike travel. And that's helped me enormously. I log in the morning and I just say, I'm here and I'm heading roughly this direction. Can anybody give me some advice for a hotel or something to see or do? And people respond immediately. Sometimes just simple advice, what I need to know about where to go or where a hotel is or what road to take or what road not to take. Right through to people saying, come and stay at my house, come and have dinner with us. People come and pick me up and they ride with me. I've met people on the road that have traveled with me. I met one guy through my blog. I write a blog on ADV Rider about my trip, and people follow that, and people go, I'm coming to that region, let's ride together. And I rode with a guy called Phil from America for a week and a half through Mexico, and I've just recently been riding with a couple of French bikers throughout Central America. We had to cross Nicaragua, and Nicaragua is kind of dangerous at the moment, so we decided it would be safer if we traveled together, and so we traveled as a threesome. And it was fantastic. They became like brothers to me, and we traveled together for a month right through to Colombia. We've only just recently separated, One of them had to go home, and another one had his girlfriend visit for 2 weeks. And yeah, so it's nice. So sometimes I travel alone, and it's nice to be alone and the freedom, and sometimes I travel with other people, and that's nice too. So both things are nice, but the standout feature is just how incredibly helpful and generous people have been everywhere I go. People are inherently good, and they're just getting on with their own lives, doing their own thing, and they open their lives to me as I ride past, and they become part of my adventure. It's been absolutely fantastic. I guess the other one of the big motivations for me to do this trip is freedom, is the feeling of freedom, the feeling of getting up in the morning, looking at the map and deciding today I want to go north, or I want to go south, or I want to see a lake or a river or a city, or and I just have complete freedom. Or sometimes if I'm in a beautiful place, I just stay there and stay there for a couple of 3 days. There's a couple of places I've stayed for a week because they've just been so lovely, and I love that. I love that feeling of absolute freedom. It's one of the reasons I don't have a real destination endpoint, because I don't need one. I don't have anywhere to go. It's about the experience of travel. It's the experience of meeting people, and it's been absolutely fantastic.
¿Puedes hablar también sobre el valor de las calcomanías, las estampillas de los motociclistas, de lo que significan acá? Te vi que hablaste algo sobre el valor agregado que tenían acá en esta parte del mundo.
One of the interesting things here about bikers is that everybody has a sticker that says something about them, that says something about where they come from, or what their journey is, or what they're interested in, and people swap stickers, and that's a really cool thing. And you can see on the back of my bike there's 15 or 20 stickers from different people that I've met along the way. I didn't understand this when I started the journey. I didn't have a sticker, but I've just got one designed the last couple of days, and looking forward to getting them printed up so I can give them out as well, and give people a small piece of memorabilia from my travel, and also to say thank you in a way for what they've done for me, whether they're hosting me or giving me information or a meal or a roof for the night. And it's nice. It kind of makes a collection of all the people that I've met along the way, especially the bikers that I've met.
¿Qué te impulsó a tomar esa decisión de irte tan lejos de tu casa durante tanto tiempo? ¿Cómo tomaste la decisión?
So I've always loved to travel, and I just recently got into motorbikes, and it turns out that I love motorbikes, so it just seemed like a good idea to combine the two. And then I started reading blogs of other people's. I started reading blogs of other people's motorcycle adventures a few years ago, and I watched the TV series The Long Way Round and The Long Way Down with Charlie Borman and Ewan McGregor, and that got me really excited. Their adventures just seemed right up my alley, a little bit challenging, a little bit dangerous, but full of adventure and people and culture and history. So it was something that I decided was right for me. I did a couple of practice runs around New Zealand, doing 3-month trips around New Zealand, just to make sure that I was up to it, that it's actually what I really wanted to do. And the more I did it, the more I realized that I just loved it, that it suited me really well. And I started making plans about doing a big trip. I started looking at going around the world, completely around the world, and then or doing little bits, or maybe starting in Europe and going east. And one of the reasons I picked the Americas is because it's one of the continents I haven't been to. And it's a very easy continent to travel through. You don't have to pre-arrange any visas. You can just turn up at the border with your bike, and you can get entry into all the countries, and that's really nice. Other countries, especially around Asia and some of the European countries, You need a carnet de passage, which is like a passport for your motorbike. Those are very expensive and quite a bureaucratic process. A lot of places you need to pre-arrange visas, sometimes a month, 2-3 months in advance. And then you have to have a plan. So you have to say, I'm going to enter this country on this day, I'm going to leave on this day. And I didn't want that. I wanted freedom. I wanted to be able to just wake up in the morning and go wherever I wanted to go, enter a country whenever I wanted to. And so the Americas are perfect for that, because that's exactly what you can do. Probably the only part of traveling the Americas that you have to make a plan for is the Darien Gap between Panama and Colombia, because there's no road. So you have to book a boat or a plane or a container and pre-arrange that. So that was really the only date that I had to pre-plan on this trip, but everything else has just been ad hoc. I just turn up and go and enter a country. Almost all the countries have an instant 3-month visa for me and for the bike, and it makes for nice, easy traveling.
You were my cricket?
Yeah. Charlie Bullman, long way round, long way down. See, inspiration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything.
Well, yeah.
¿Y como que tan difícil es irse lejos de la familia, o qué piensas de la familia, si la familia es la que se va construyendo o dejando en el camino? ¿Qué piensas ahí sobre los afectos, sobre las personas que uno quiere, que deja o que lo esperan a uno? Entendiendo familia como las personas por las que uno tiene afecto, familia, amigos, esposa, novia, ¿cierto? Que son las personas que lo amarran a uno a un lugar, o te retienen en un lugar.
All my family and friends, or most of them, live in New Zealand, and it was a big decision to go for a year. I have a long-term girlfriend in New Zealand. So it was a difficult decision to leave for a year. There are lots of reasons not to go, but there were enough reasons to go that I just went for it. Certainly, family and friends are important to me. I have a long-term girlfriend in New Zealand who's extremely understanding, and she knows how important this trip was for me, and she was happy to let me go. And also with modern technology, it makes it very easy. You know, we can talk. So my girlfriend is extremely understanding. She appreciates how important this was for me, that I wanted to do this adventure, that I've been dreaming about this for years, and she supports me fully. But also with modern technology, it's really easy to stay in touch. With WhatsApp and cell phones and internet and email, we stay very closely in touch. We talk every couple of days, and we catch up. And it's the same with my parents, my brother, and my friends. I write a blog, an internet blog about my trip, and they all follow that along, which is it's a nice feeling for them. They know where I'm at and what I'm doing, but it's a nice feeling for me as well to know that they are following along and that they're interested, and it kind of feels like they're on this trip with me in a way. So the support of family is important, and I'm very lucky to have a very understanding family who understand how important this trip was for me, and they support me fully in it.
¿Este es tu sueño?
This is your dream.
¿Es difícil cumplir los sueños?
Sí. Sí.
Todos tenemos el derecho a cumplir nuestros sueños.
We all have the right
Sure.
to fulfill our dreams.
Sí. So doing this trip is something I've been thinking about for many years. Saving money for this trip has It's taken me quite a few years, probably about 4 or 5 years of seriously putting money away to pay for this, because I'm obviously not working for a year, so I'm not earning any money, and I have a place in New Zealand that is still costing money. But the thing with dreams, I think there comes a time, it's easier to find lots of reasons not to do something. I could make a list of 100 reasons not to do this trip. Lots of practical things and personal things, and really there's only one reason to do the trip, is because it's my dream, but that dream is important. This is a trip of a lifetime. I will think about this trip. I will relive this trip and enjoy looking back on this trip for the rest of my life. In fact, I'm enjoying it so much that there's a pretty good chance I'm going to do more of these trips. I guess the important thing is that sometimes you just have to do it. You just have to take the risk. You have to appreciate that it's going to cost you in time, in money, in relationships, but that you have to find out for yourself whether that's worth the cost. And again, I've been really lucky. My family have been really supportive. I had a good job that paid well, but still there's a lot of risk, and not having a job now and having to go back eventually and look for another job is a risk, but it's a risk that I was prepared to take in order to follow this dream, and so far it's completely lived up to expectations. In fact, it's surpassed my expectations. This trip has been even better than I had dreamt that it could be. So yeah, I'm really lucky. I'm really happy to be on the road.
¿Por qué en moto y no en avión o en bus o a pie? ¿Qué es lo diferente que te hace sentir la moto cuando estás viajando o conociendo en moto?
The reason why I chose motorbike travel specifically, because it adds to that feeling of freedom. When you ride a bike, you are part of the environment. You feel the environment. When you pass a field of flowers, you smell the flowers. When it rains, you get wet. When it's sunny, you get hot. When there's a dead animal on the side of the road, you smell that too. But you really experience the places that you're traveling through, much more so than in a car. Or in an aeroplane or a camper van. You really are a part of the journey, and I enjoy that very much. And the other nice thing is that bikers everywhere look after other bikers. So we wave to each other when we pass on the road. We look out for other motorbike travelers, and we stop and we talk and we compare notes, and there's a real brotherhood amongst bikers, and that's been fantastic. That's been one of the absolute highlights of my trip, is experiencing that brotherhood amongst bikers, and it's everywhere I go I've found that, and it's been really heartwarming and humbling. Probably the other thing is that there's some disadvantages as well. You are very alone. If you have a mechanical breakdown, you're stuck. If you get a flat tire, you don't have a spare. You have to look after yourself, and that's exciting. I'll start again. Yeah. So the other thing about one of the disadvantages about riding a motorbike is that you are quite vulnerable. You're vulnerable to the weather, to the climate. You're vulnerable to other traffic. If you have an accident with another vehicle, guaranteed the guy on the bike is going to lose, regardless of whose fault it is. Also mechanically, if you have a breakdown, if you have a flat tire, you literally get stranded on the side of the road, and you have to work it out and get moving again. So that's a disadvantage, but you can also look at it as an opportunity. And some of the best people I've met, some of the best experiences I've had is when things have gone wrong. When I've had a flat tire on the side of the road and strangers just stop and help, or I've had a mechanical breakdown and people do what they can to help out complete strangers, especially bikers, again, because they understand, they know that if you're broken down on the side of a road on a bike, you need help. and they help, and that's actually been another highlight, is that people are so willing to help.
¿Sientes temor? ¿Miedo?
There have been a few moments where it's been a little bit scary. Not so much the bike riding. The driving behavior is quite different between different countries. Some countries are very people are very considerate and patient. For instance, Mexico. So there have been a couple of scary moments on the trip. A few low points. Probably the standout, frightening parts were Nicaragua. Nicaragua is sort of on the brink of civil war right now. A lot of roadblocks, a lot of angry people, a lot of protests, and I rode with a couple of French bikers because we decided it would be safer to travel as three as compared to traveling on our own. And we had some serious issues. We passed through 6 or 7 roadblocks where we got pretty seriously harassed. People threatened us with machetes and baseball bats and bazookas, and people were very, very upset. And a couple in particular, they threatened to take our bikes. They demanded money. They wanted our shoes for some reason, and they tried to push over the bikes and tried to take stuff from the bikes, and that was pretty scary. Although luckily at all the roadblocks, at some point somebody saw sense and calmed the crowds down and told them that this is not our war. This is hurting us or stealing from us is not going to help their cause, and they let us through. But that was a pretty scary time, and I'm certainly very glad that we were traveling together and I wasn't alone, especially with my bad Spanish. For the rest, I guess the traffic can get a little bit scary sometimes. Locals who know the road, who ride the same road every day, tend to ride quite fast, tend to cut corners, and driving behavior has been quite different too. In different countries, so probably the USA is probably the worst. They are probably the most aggressive and the least patient of the drivers, whereas Mexico was the opposite. Mexico drivers were super considerate and calm and patient, and they give way and they understand motorbikes. I tend to find that the countries that have lots of motorbikes, that people know how to react to them in the traffic, and they know what to do, and they tend to be a bit more understanding. Probably Panama they were also pretty aggressive, but in other countries they've been really calm. Honduras was good. Guatemala was also pretty gentle. Here they have an interesting style where people don't tend to give way, they don't tend to stop, but they just tend to just drive really slowly through an intersection, which is an interesting way of driving as well. In terms of general safety, and in terms of like visiting cities and sometimes getting stuck in the wrong neighborhood or getting into a dangerous neighborhood, there's only been a couple of times where I felt nervous. I haven't been threatened. I haven't had anything stolen. I tend to be pretty careful and I try to be sensible. And everything's been good so far. I understand. I mean, it happens. People are robbed on trips like this, but so far I've been lucky. Overall, this trip has been the experience of a lifetime. I'm extremely pleased with how things have gone. I'm looking forward to another 6 months on the road and heading south into South America further. And probably the outstanding feature, the most heartwarming thing, is how good people are and how nice people are and how considerate people are. And especially bikers helping out other bikers, but also just complete strangers helping out. That everywhere I go in the world, people are good, people are kind. So overall, this trip has been absolutely fantastic. It has exceeded my expectations. I'm having an absolutely fantastic time. I will remember this trip for the rest of my life. I'll look back on it fondly. And the outstanding feature, the really the take-home message is how good people are everywhere. People have just been fantastic. People are helpful, they're kind, they're generous. It's been a very humbling experience in that way, and I think it's going to make me a better person, hopefully a more generous and humble person, because what I've experienced has just been superb, and I'm looking forward to spending another 6 months on the road heading south from here. I think one of the things that also really motivated me to do this trip, to take the step and to take this risk, is that if you talk to older people, one of the interesting things that they pretty much all have in common is that they don't regret the things that they did, but they tend to regret the things that they didn't do, the things that they thought about, the things that they dreamt about, but they never had the opportunity or the time or the get-go to make the jump and to make it happen. And I think that's probably an important life lesson, is that listen to old people and listen to what advice they give you, and that's been an important motivation for me. Is I don't want to regret not having done this, and so I'm really glad that I did it, that I'm doing it now, and also fortunate that I've been able to.